overheats.
Why did they replace all this stuff? They just
Covered in. Got a lot of pressure coming in, not so much pressure coming out, and time.
Got to go for alignment.
The monitors aren't exact.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Doug Browner. This week we're talking about, well, fluids. Not the obvious fluids. We all know that we need to change the engine coolant, the engine oil. Today we're talking about power steering fluid though. In fact, we shouldn't even call it fluid because it's an oil. And if we called it power steering oil, it would raise our sensitivity to the fact that if it's an oil, it's gonna wear out. Checking it yourself is pretty easy. What I like to do is just open up the power steering reservoir and take a little on my finger. Smell it. Look at it. It should smell unremarkable, kind of fresh. It also shouldn't look anything but bright pink. I put a little on my arm and I will wash that off. That actually looks pretty good. But if it were black and if it were to smell burned, it's time for a power fluid exchange. Now, I don't like the word flush because when I think about flushing something, I think about agitating a certain substance. And we don't want to ever agitate fluids inside an engine, but we do want to exchange them, which means you're going to have to find a mechanic who's used to doing this. And we're not talking about just sucking out one fluid and replacing it with another, but an equal transfer. And that's what this tool does. This is a power steering fluid exchanger. And what it helps to do is to take the old fluid, collect it through this series of tubes, and then reinstall a cleaner product, conditioner, and new power steering fluid back into the car. This is a relatively simple procedure for a pro mechanic, but you just can't put any power steering fluid in. Cars today are very sensitive to the type of fluid that they need, which is why this type of procedure is generally going to be one that you'll leave up to your local mechanic. How often should you change the power steering fluid? Well, that's based primarily on the manufacturer's recommendations. But for most cars, anywhere between 30 and 40,000 miles is a great interval. A lot of failures from power steering pumps to rack and pinions can be attributed to the fact that the power steering fluid, or remember, the power steering oil, was never serviced. You should expect to spend between $130 and $150 for this critical service. Being sensitive to all your fluids is a great way of keeping your car around for a whole long time and keeping it running great.